every up sets us back instrumentally. With that 250 being our only vehicle right now, we got to make it work or we're not going to hit our...
Fred Lewis has just pulled off the biggest shock of his entire mining career. An $85 million gold vein revealed after cracking a secret map that no one else believed was real. For years, critics wrote Fred off, saying he didn't have the experience, the crew, or the instincts to compete with Parker Schnabel or the Beats family. But now, he's sitting on a discovery so massive it could flip the entire gold rush hierarchy upside down. This isn't just another lucky cleanup. The vein stretches further than anyone expected, laced with gold so pure the first assays left even seasoned geologists stunned. What's even crazier? The map that led him here wasn't just a rumor. It's been sitting in archives for decades, ignored until Fred pieced the clues together and followed the trail into ground that everyone else thought was worthless. Rivals are already furious. The networks are circling, and Fred knows this jackpot puts a target on his back. But for the first time, he's not just playing catch-up, he's the one setting the pace. If you want more breaking gold rush discoveries like this, make sure to like and subscribe right now. It all starts with something strange Fred never expected to see again. Hidden inside an old military chest from his army days, buried under medals and paperwork, he finds a folded piece of parchment. At first glance, it looks like a prospector's sketch. Rough lines, strange symbols, nothing unusual. But Fred notices something nobody else would. This thing has military grid codes mixed with symbols that look almost like alchemy. And in one corner, 5 chilling words are scrawled, "Blood marks the way." Right then, Fred knows this isn't just some miner's doodle. His training kicks in. He's spent years reading encrypted field maps, and this one has layers, hidden codes, things the average eye would miss. And he's left asking the big question, did he just stumble onto a lost prospector's dream, or is this proof of a secret gold system that someone wanted buried forever? So Fred does what only Fred would do. He puts the map under a red light filter. Suddenly, faint lines appear, like ghosts coming back to life. And what do they show? Coordinates leading straight into Nevada's Black Rock Desert. Now, this isn't just some empty wasteland. This desert has a reputation. It swallows up expeditions. It's written off as worthless, unstable, cursed. But the map says otherwise. Looking closer, Fred spots grid marks showing tunnels. Tunnels that don't exist on any official survey. These were erased on purpose. He even sees fake trails, dummy markers, designed to trick outsiders, the same kind of deception he used to draw in combat. It's clear now, this map was never meant for just anyone to follow. It was meant for someone who could read between the lines, and the deeper he decodes it, the clearer it gets. This thing is leading to a massive gold system, abandoned generations ago, hidden by men who knew exactly what they had. Now Fred's all in, but he can't do it alone. So he gathers his crew, spreading the map across the camp table like it's a battle plan. The room splits instantly. Some guys shake their heads, saying it's suicide. Chasing ghosts in the desert is how you lose a season, and maybe your life. Others, they can barely sit still, because if Fred's right, this is the one shot that could change everything. Fred doesn't sugarcoat it. He doesn't promise easy gold or quick riches. He tells them straight, this isn't about luck, it's about trust. He stakes his name and reputation on it. He believes this map is the real deal, not some story, not some fantasy. And the decision isn't logical anymore, it's emotional. Some crew members are desperate to finally hit a payday. Others want to prove they weren't wrong for following Fred all these years. So when the sun comes up, the decision's made. They're going in. Not because it makes sense, but because sometimes history doesn't wait for the cautious. Fred and his crew are about to chase a secret buried in blood and sand, a vein that could rewrite gold mining history. And as the engines fire and the trucks roll forward, that conviction collides with reality. The desert doesn't welcome them, it swallows them. The crew drives into the canyon at first light, engines rumbling against a silence so heavy it feels staged. Wind whips across the jagged ridges, carrying sand that cuts into exposed skin like glass shards. Everywhere they look are reminders of those who came before and never made it out. Old campsites litter the canyon floor, rusted shovels sticking half-buried in the dirt, broken pans scattered like bones. Machinery from another century leans against the rock walls, gears seized solid, paint long stripped away. It looks less like a dig site and more like a graveyard. Fred steps down from the truck and just stands there, scanning the walls. He knows the feeling in his gut. This isn't just another claim. It feels alive, like the canyon is watching, and it doesn't take long before the map proves it. Under daylight, the rocks look ordinary, just slabs of sandstone and shale. But when they fire up UV lights, faint veins begin to glow inside the cracks, spiderwebbing across the canyon face. To the naked eye, invisible. Under ultraviolet, a secret map drawn by nature itself. Gold traces, tiny but undeniable. The men gather, whispers rising. Some are excited, others pale with unease. If the rocks glow like this, what's deeper inside? That night, they get their first answer. The desert doesn't sleep. Long after the fire dies down, the ground trembles with a strange metallic echo. Not a quake, not wind. Something hollow, resonating from deep below. The sound rolls up through the canyon floor like a drumbeat. The men sit in silence, staring at each other, wondering if they've just set foot on top of a cavern big enough to swallow them whole. Fred doesn't say a word, but he knows. They're standing where the original prospector once stood, right at the edge of a discovery so massive it scared him enough to hide it forever. At dawn, they follow the map deeper into the gorge. The path twists until they reach a wall of boulders stacked unnaturally, not by landslide or erosion, but by human hands. The map had marked it exactly. It's the entrance, a barrier thrown up to keep something out, or to keep something in. The crew gathers close, flashlights dancing across the stone. What they see makes the air drop a degree. Carved into the surface are symbols, half native petroglyphs, half miner's scrawl. A strange mix of warnings and ritual markings, circles, spirals, claw-like scratches, all overlaying each other. One line is clearer than the rest, burned into the stone. Do not open. They bring in seismic scanners, sending vibrations through the wall. The readings come back fast. Empty space behind it. A chamber, large, hollow, waiting. Fred gives the order. Dynamite is packed, wires set, and with a single blast, centuries of secrecy crumble into dust. The air that rushes out is suffocating, thick, metallic, choking their lungs as if they've opened a tomb. Masks go on, flashlights cut through the haze, and the crew steps into the dark. Inside, the chamber stretches wider than expected. Lanterns from another age sit rusted against the walls, pickaxes scattered across the floor. But what freezes everyone are the timbers. They're blackened, charred, burned by fire that must have raged inside. Yet there are no bones, no bodies, nothing to explain why men who worked here never made it out. It's as if they dropped everything and vanished, swallowed whole. Fred runs his hand across the scorched wood. It's not just fire damage. Something here went wrong. Something big. But he doesn't let the fear linger. He calls in the drill rig. If this map brought them here, this is where they'll test the walls. The first drill bites into stone, screeching, vibrating through the chamber. At 5 feet in, the sound changes, hollow, resistant, like hitting something dense. When they pull the core sample, everyone crowds in. There it is, a vein, thin but unmistakable, glittering in the harsh light. Gold, the first real sign. And it's not like anything they've seen before. The purity level shocks even the crew. Independent assays confirm it later. This ore is far richer than modern claims, almost off the charts. Excitement rips through the chamber, but then the ground hums. Not shakes, hums. A low, steady vibration rolling up through the walls, rattling gear, buzzing against their ribs. Instruments can't explain it. Seismographs show no quake activity. Scientists back at camp are stumped. Some call it resonance from the chamber itself, like a massive tuning fork. Others say it feels artificial. Whatever it is, it doesn't stop. The deeper they drill, the stronger it gets. Fred doesn't flinch. He orders another drill, then another. Each time, the samples come back richer, veins thicker, brighter. The readings spike higher than anyone thought possible, suggesting something enormous stretches below them. This isn't just a pocket. This is a system. A web of gold veins tied together beneath the canyon, like arteries pumping treasure through stone. The crew exchanges looks. They've all seen gold fever before, but this is different. This is a discovery that could rewrite mining history. Fred finally says it out loud, the words everyone's thinking, but too afraid to admit. This map isn't leading them to one strike. It's guiding them to a hidden network of veins worth not just millions, but untold fortune, veins that men fought over, sealed away, and died to protect. The canyon has spoken. The first barrier is down, and the whispers of gold are growing louder. What none of them realize is that whispers carry. Word doesn't stay buried long in the desert. The night air sat heavy over the canyon, and the silence felt different now. Charged, waiting. Word had gotten out, faster than anyone thought possible. Rivals began circling like vultures, some in battered pickup trucks parked too long on the ridges, others drifting in under the guise of prospectors, just passing through. At first, Fred brushed it off, but then fuel tanks, full one night, were mysteriously bone dry by morning. Survey drones vanished mid-flight, their signals cut as if swallowed whole. The crew's nerves frayed as shadows seemed to move at the edge of their work lights. Then came the strangest discovery yet. Fresh boot prints leading straight into the mine entrance, pressed deep into the dust, only to stop dead in the middle of the tunnel, as though the intruder had evaporated into the rock itself. The tension boiled over into suspicion. Every side glance carried accusation. Who could be trusted? Was it sabotage from rivals, or betrayal within? Men muttered in hushed tones over their coffee, arguments erupted at the dig site, and what had once felt like a brotherhood began to splinter under the weight of paranoia. Fred felt it building like a storm front, but he refused to let it take them apart. Hardened by years of combat, he snapped the camp into lockdown. Floodlights lit the perimeter, motion sensors crackled to life, and rifles leaned against tents like silent guardians. He turned the canyon into a fortress. Yet even as the defenses grew tighter, something darker crept inside the minds of the crew. The paranoia itself was the real enemy, eating them alive one suspicious glance at a time. Then disaster struck without warning. The ground shuddered, a low rumble turning into a roar, and before anyone could react, part of the shaft gave way. A violent cave-in buried half the crew under tons of rock and dust. Alarms screamed, men shouted over the chaos, and Fred charged into the choking dark with a sledgehammer, clawing at stone and timber until his hands bled. Hours blurred into desperation, every strike of the hammer echoing like a heartbeat. Finally, with the last of their strength, they cleared enough rubble to break through and stumbled into a space no one expected. It was a chamber, a second chamber, one that wasn't marked on the map. The lantern light caught the walls, and every jaw dropped. Thick streaks of pure gold ran through the rock, not faint veins, but heavy bands, glimmering like paint brushed by the hand of some ancient master. It was too much, almost blinding, and for a moment, awe silenced every fear. But then the details began to emerge, details that froze the awe into something colder. Scattered across the chamber were relics, rusted boots, shattered picks, a lantern twisted out of shape, and half buried in dust, a weather-beaten journal. Fred flipped it open, the pages brittle and stained. The handwriting was jagged, frantic. It spoke of another crew, long gone, who had dug too deep, too fast, driven mad by the sight of limitless gold. They had turned on each other, suspicion becoming violence, greed consuming every shred of reason. The journal's final line was scratched so hard into the page it nearly tore the paper. The map was never meant to guide. It was meant to warn. Fred closed it slowly, the words burning into his mind like a brand. The gold wasn't just treasure. It was a curse, and they had stepped straight into its jaws. Still, there was no denying what lay before them. Geological scans confirmed the vein was real, and the numbers were staggering. What they had uncovered wasn't a lucky pocket or a small strike. It was the beginning of something colossal. Early estimates valued just the visible section at $85 million, a fortune beyond anything the crew had ever imagined. But whispers among the geologists hinted at something bigger. The scans suggested the vein stretched for miles, a golden artery pulsing deep beneath the desert. Some compared it to the Comstock lode, others said it could rival the Klondike, but all agreed. This wasn't just rich ground. This was a once-in-a-century discovery, the kind that rewrote history. Fred stood at the mouth of the new chamber, lantern light flickering across his face, the weight of everything pressing down. The crew, battered and dust-covered, stared at him, waiting. They knew this was the turning point. Ahead lay unimaginable fortune, but also danger, unlike anything they'd faced before. Because the deeper they went, the more the mine seemed to resist, groaning and shifting as if alive, like a beast disturbed from centuries of slumber. Every creak of the timbers sounded like a growl, every echo in the dark like a warning. Fred gripped the journal tighter, the words echoing in his skull. The map was never meant to guide, it was meant to warn. But still, the gold shimmered in the lamplight, whispering promises no man could ignore. And with that whisper came the pull, dragging them deeper into the heart of the desert, into the unknown veins of fortune and ruin waiting below. What they didn't know was that whispers carry, not just through stone, but across towns, across state line. Secrets this big don't stay buried. The offers came first as whispers, men in tailored suits showing up where no suits should be, their polished shoes kicking dust at the edge of the canyon. They spoke softly, waving contracts thicker than mining manuals, promising checks that could buy the whole camp twice over. Then came the hard men, rival miners, claim jumpers, the kind who carried pistols under their coats and spoke in threats instead of words. They wanted in. They wanted control. Every day the pressure mounted. Investors slid bribes across tables in back rooms of Reno bars. Shadowy figures muttered about partnerships, and lawyers tried to trap Fred in fine print that would strip him of everything. Fred stood firm. He'd been through firefights, deserts, and nightmares no paper pusher could match. He declared the vein belonged to the crew who had risked blood and bone to uncover it. But inside camp, the unity was cracking. Some of the men, worn down by endless toil and the taste of sudden fortune, wanted to take the easy money and walk away rich. Others were bound by loyalty, unwilling to sell out what they'd nearly died for. Arguments erupted under the glare of lanterns. Voices rose, fists slammed against tables. The gold wasn't just underground anymore, it was in their heads, gnawing at friendships, twisting loyalties. Fred realized that the true fight wasn't against rival miners or lawyers. The real enemy was greed itself, and it was tearing them apart from within. Then nature struck with no warning. Clouds blackened, lightning tore across the sky, and a storm unlike anything they'd seen exploded over the canyon. Sheets of rain pounded the earth, flash floods roared through gullies, and the mine became a death trap. Water surged into the shaft, drowning lantern light and threatening to bury their discovery forever. Panic spread as timbers cracked and tunnels filled. Some shouted to seal it, to abandon everything before the mountains swallowed them whole. Others, eyes blazing with desperation, refused to let the vein vanish. Fred stood at the center, water up to his waist, mud sucking at his boots. He knew there was no safety, no guarantee. There was only choice, run or fight the storm. He chose to fight. With a roar that cut through the thunder, Fred drove his crew forward. They hauled crates of ore, lashed ropes around barrels, dragged samples through rising torrents with seconds to spare. Every heartbeat felt like the last, every step a gamble against the flood. The shaft groaned, beams splintered, and the black water nearly claimed them more than once. But against all odds, they emerged into the dawn, soaked, battered, alive, and carrying proof. The crates of gold-rich ore, dripping with desert rain, glistened in the first light of morning. They had wrestled fortune from the jaws of destruction. The prophecy of the map was fulfilled. The vein was real, but the cost had nearly been their lives. In the days that followed, the assays came back. Independent labs confirmed what their eyes already knew. The vein's value stood at a staggering $85 million, and that was only the accessible section. Deeper veins remained untouched, their worth impossible to calculate. The crew had struck something legendary. But Fred, scarred by what it had taken, made a decision no one expected. He refused to sell the map, refused to copy it, refused to let it become another pawn in the games of greed. He locked it away in a vault, declaring it both treasure and curse, a relic not meant to be exploited. Historians debated its origins. Was the map a guide left by men who wanted others to share in fortune? Or was it a trap, a warning designed to lure the greedy to their doom? Scholars argued, prospectors speculated, and the mystery deepened. But for Fred, the truth didn't matter anymore. He carried the gold, yes, but also the scars. Physical, mental, spiritual. He knew the land kept secrets far darker than riches, and that no man ever truly mastered it. As the crew packed up and the canyon fell silent again, the camera of history lingered on one haunting image. The torn corner of the map, still rough, still incomplete. A fragment of lines and symbols that hinted at more. Another chamber, another vein, still hidden, still calling. The storm had passed, but the story wasn't over. It never would be.